and welcome back to the Thesideescape Gaming Podcast, episode 108. I'm your host, Jake Burke, and joined, as always, by James St. Charles and Ted Libby. I don't know, I'm sorry, guys.
That's me.
I'm sorry, Ted. Ted, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
All right, and James checking in. How are we doing?
Doing good. It's a great day.
James, I have a question for you. We're going to talk a little gaming thing, just off the record, James. They announced a new Yakuza game. Where they
announced a lot.
They announced a lot, but the new one is like Yakuza 8, where the guy from Like a Dragon and the other guy are playable. Is that true? Am I wrong?
So you're talking about Like a Dragon 2?
They announced a Like a Dragon 2, right?
Or are you talking about the old one? They announced a Like a Dragon 2 and they announced like the old series.
Okay.
You're talking about Like a Dragon 2, right?
Yeah, I think so. There's two playable characters.
Like a Dragon 2 has the new guy from the Like a Dragon series, and then it has the original. It's combining the series.
And it's Yakuza 8, right? That's what they're calling it?
But they can't call it Yakuza anymore. They're moving away from Yakuza, and it's not called the Yakuza in Japan because of licensing issues. So what they're doing is they're not naming any of their games from now on Yakuza. So they're just calling it the second half. And even in Japan, it's actually called Like a Dragon. Like it's called Ryoga, something like that.
Oh, okay.
So they're moving away from Yakuza because of licensing issues. Makes sense. It's a pain.
And
they're coming out with so many different spin-offs though, because they just released Judgment, their old Judgment series on PC, and then they have this other series that's like supposed to be like way in the past. So they're branching away from not just like Japan Mafia. They might explore around. I love that. And
that's super cool.
But yeah, Like a Dragon 2 looks like it's just it's in development.
Yeah.
2024 early is when they're projecting. No way they hit that. No. They said it's their biggest game yet. No way.
That's honestly, to hear it's their biggest game is scary, because Like a Dragon 1 was like fucking 95 hours or something.
Like a Dragon's huge.
Yeah.
From what I understand, Like a Dragon will continue with the turn-based, and then the Judgment series will continue with the live action or the real-time brawler.
Yeah.
I just bought it. It was $100 for both games on
hot dang
Steam. That's worth
for
it.
that, like a bundle, yeah.
Yeah, you get both of them for $100.
Yeah. Both Judgments or both Judgment and Like a Dragon?
It's called Judgment and Lost Judgment. So yeah, there's like a first game and a second game, and like a DLC, I guess. But it's all, you can get it all for $100. And I was like, that's worth it. That's like $50 a game.
Yeah,
it's like
I'll take it.
100,000 yen.
Yeah. But enough about Like a Dragon, because this is the 108th episode of the Thesideescape Gaming Podcast, where every Monday morning a new episode goes live on YouTube.com and nowhere else, because Ted has failed you as an audience.
Once a week we talk to you every week about this.
Ted, I'm doing an intro. Please. Once a week we Discord over 500 miles, talk about a gaming related topic and what games we are playing. Except for this week, we are not talking about video games. We're talking about like TV shows and stuff. Ted's got a whole plan. But before we talk about that, James, the biggest news of the year has happened.
The news. Because on May 12th, 2023, if they don't delay it again, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Of the Kingdom or a Kingdom? The Kingdom. The Kingdom. Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom.
Kingdom. Breath. Wild.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
This trailer looked interesting. But it's got a name. It's got a date. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling confident.
Me too.
I think that you could hit that date, barring any Japan closures, setbacks. Right. But it looks really good. It definitely looks a lot bigger than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
you're taken to the skies, and you called that like way early, I believe, after the first game, that they were gonna do something with the sky islands.
The sky, or the ground. Yeah, I'm very interested if it. Like, I was texting both you guys kind of when it was announced, and just like, I wonder how much of the world, like of Hyrule that we played in the first game, stays, and like, is it?
That would be. I would like it to stay.
I think I kind of would too, and like,
but maybe just be transformed, right? Like,
yeah.
Maybe at like a different time, but like it'd be cool to just go to a place and be like, "Hey, I remember this from the first game," or I wouldn't see why you need to remake the entire map. If it looks like Breath of the Wild, why would you need to remake everything? Like adding stuff makes sense, or
a whole
just
sky
changing
area.
some things. Yeah.
I'm so excited.
You said the glider? That glider is insane.
Yeah, he's like on like it's like a stone bird thing that he's riding down, and this game's gonna be real good. He's in like a whole new outfit. which I thought was really interesting. Link is no longer in the green tunic. That is just gone. He's now in this blue shirt. That's our Link that we know forever. I'm excited. I do think James, you and I have talked about this for like years on this podcast, and then Ted in the last like year and a half. But like the fact that this is on the regular Switch, and like that there's not an upgraded Switch with more power is interesting, and I'm curious.
It has me concerned.
Yeah, a little bit for me too.
Well,
but
yeah,
Breath of the Wild is like a 2 gigabyte game, so the fact that they fit all of Breath of the Wild on 2 gigs, where Call of Duty Warzone is fucking 190, is mind-blowing.
And it's one of the best games and one of the best looking games on the Switch. It's hands down, and it's from it's 2017.
It was a launch game. They set the bar
it's
real high.
It's a launch game, and but I feel like it's the same with a lot of like staple games, like Half-Life Alyx for VR. It really set the bar high, and nothing has come close to it. And I think this is gonna do it again. Like Breath of the Wild 2 is just gonna be
James,
a lot cleaner.
It's called Tears of the Kingdom. How dare you?
I'm gonna call it Breath of the Wild 2 until it comes out.
All right, fair enough. You know, I'll take it.
Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. It's not my favorite name, but I'll take it.
I like it. I think it's a fun name.
Yeah, it doesn't flow like Breath of the Wild though.
You don't like Link to the Past. There's a lot of to this,
There's a lot of to this.
Yeah.
That's the Legend of Zelda series.
I like the 2 name ones, like Twilight Princess. Like that's a great name.
Yeah. Very surprised. So they had a Nintendo Direct last week, as well as a State of Play. In my opinion, not like a ton of crazy, interesting announcements, except for like we talked about Yakuza. They showed new God of War stuff. Guess what? God of War Ragnarok
looks so good.
Really good video game. It's gonna be a great video game.
Yeah. Hey,
I don't want to see any more of that video game. Who knew?
Did you know this?
Oh, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
People are gonna like it. I'm gonna like it.
It's gonna have a good story.
It's gonna be good. It looks good. There's a scene in that new trailer. Ted, have you watched this new trailer for God of War Ragnarok?
I have not, no.
All right. Kratos throws his axe. Thor throws his hammer. They connect midair and stick, and then they both call him back at the same time and then go in for a strike. It might be the coolest thing I've ever seen.
That might be one of the best fights that we're going to see.
Oh my God. Well, and James, you know that you're killing Thor and taking Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Like, that's the third weapon of this game. It's lightning. It's a whole new element.
It's just like MCU. What if they tie in MCU?
Yep.
With the axe and the
and then you have.
This is turning a little bit too much like YouTube comments.
At the end of God of War
Ragnarok,
America comes in. Yeah, there's Samuel Jackson turns around. He's like, "I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative." It's weird. Ted, I want you to take it away. We're gonna talk. Let's talk about shows right now. Right? That's what you want to do?
Let's talk about TV
on the Sidescape Gaming Podcast, where we talk about TV.
On the Sidescape Television Podcast, where we talk about the hottest new televisions.
So you want to talk about what shows you've been watching this year, right? That's where you want to start this conversation?
Yeah, man. It's the middle of the year, sort of.
Can I tell you
give or take?
The best
There've been some TV shows this year. There've been some movies.
There have.
In fact, I would say too much because I can't keep up.
Yes.
What are you guys watching? What are you guys enjoying?
Currently, I'm watching the Rings of Power. I watched the first episode of House of the Dragon. Did not really care for the House of the Dragon. And I feel like the reason I'm over Game of Thrones.
Good.
I thank you, James. Thank you for the support. Good. I know how Game of Thrones ends, and it ends in a really laughably bad way. And every time that the show brought up the fact that the show of Game of Thrones is gonna happen, it made me like, right. Then I don't want to watch the show anymore because you fucked me in the last show. That's literally how I felt. Like at one point, the guy.
I remember.
Spoilers for the first episode of House of the Dragons. But the king tells his daughter, he's like, I had this dream where a Targaryen must sit on the throne when the winter comes to save the world. And like, that's the only way this can happen. And I literally looked at the person I was watching it with and I went, so we all know that's not true. Because they kill the White Walkers before a Targaryen's on the throne. So like, this doesn't matter. Whatever he just said is a bold-faced lie. I'm like, that hurt. Yeah. Rings of Power, I think, is really good. Rings of Power is.
I watched the first episode of Rings of Power. I just haven't been keeping up with it.
It gets better.
How's it so far? How many episodes is it in? 5?
There's 3.
There's
3.
3. Wait, whoa, 3?
Yeah, there's only 3.
Because they had 2 right away.
Yeah, and then 1, and then 1 more is this Thursday. So tomorrow for us.
I'll catch up.
There will be a 4 when people are watching this.
I like the first episode.
Yeah. The first episode is the worst too.
It definitely jumps all over the place, but I felt like it was doing a lot of building, which I think is fine. I mean, you're addressing a lot of different areas.
It feels like Lord of the Rings for me. Like I'm like, oh, this feels like a Lord of the Rings show.
Lord of the Rings.
And that's what I love.
Yeah.
Ted doesn't like that.
I am bouncing. Well, okay, so I am watching both shows that we're discussing right now.
But you're watching more.
I am
House of
enjoying
Dragon.
House of the Dragon, although I will say it's falling very neatly into like HBO show.
Uh-huh.
If like
I know
what's an
what you mean.
HBO show have?
Yeah.
It's like it's got politics and
Sex.
sex scenes. Yeah, it's like
and someone's
it's-
getting
and
decapitated.
blood.
yeah, it does not capture the same charm that the original Game of Thrones did, but it's fun. I like the angle they're taking of you're kind of just almost in the day in the life of just a pretty average king who's not special.
That's so boring to me.
That's a totally fair critique that it's kind of boring.
The guy's like making models and like we're supposed to care about.
I know,
his fucking models.
I love it.
I'm
He's just
Jesus.
like making little models of his city. The Rings of Power for me, and like for those who don't know, this is not Peter Jackson verse.
No,
this legally it has to be something totally separate.
Yep.
We'll talk about legalese and TV in a sec.
Yeah.
But like, so it definitely has to be different, and that part I'm totally okay with. I just don't know where the show is going. It sounds like I've watched more than you.
I watched all three. I know where this shit's going.
You've seen all three? Okay.
I've only seen one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I can talk off air about where this is going because I think it's cool.
I don't know where the pieces are connecting, and I don't trust that they will come together into the Lord of the Rings that I know and love in a safe way. Like I don't have that. At the end of the day, it's going to tie in to the story that I know, and it's going to be great. Like I just don't have that trust. So it's for me, it's a little weird. I'm enjoying it. I'll definitely keep watching it, but I'm also
okay. I see. Yeah.
They name drop a character name that I remember from the movie. I haven't read the books, to be fair. And then it's like in a completely different place, in a completely different situation. I'm like, okay, how is that going to turn into this?
Are you talking about the antagonist, or are you talking about?
No, you'll see, James.
No.
Episode 3 drops some big names.
Some humans.
Big names.
Some
names.
Big men. Some big men.
Yeah, but like I was also thinking more broadly about 2022, the year that we're in.
Before you go, can I ask a question? Because I'm kind of curious. We are inundated with streaming services.
Yep.
There are far too many of them to keep track of. There is Peacock. There is Paramount Plus. There is fucking everything, right? What are some that like are your standouts? Like you think are putting out the best content, like original content, not like the fact that Disney Plus has like the MCU. Cool. Like what streaming services are like driving you like this? I got to keep because like the shows they actually put out are pretty fucking good. I'm kind of curious what you think.
That's a great question. Because I think that a lot of streaming services, there's two reasons for streaming well, there's not, but there's two reasons for streaming services to capture your attention.
Mm-hmm.
One is new content, one is old content that you already love. Because I would say that I've become very impressed with Paramount Plus.
Wow, really?
But solely because of their back catalog. It's solely because of movies from the 80s that I enjoyed as a kid and Star Trek.
Yeah. Right.
And that's it. I have watched bits and pieces of the Halo show.
Oh, it's terrible.
I like it.
Oh, I hate it. I watched like half the first episode.
It's
I was like, this sucks.
I enjoy it. It's not good.
It reminds me of a YouTube show. Like, to be very honest, it's like a fan-made YouTube show, and I'd be like, this is the Halo show.
And that's why it reminds me of like, I remember I grew up on sci-fi shows of that caliber where it's like filmed in Canada, pretty low budget. Like that's just how I grew up.
Well, you grew up on like old Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, like I didn't have that experience. Yeah, so okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The Halo show for me is Red versus Blue.
Yes, that is the Halo show.
Yeah,
and that was made on YouTube.
You ever just think like why we're here?
What?
We're just in a canyon, and
there's a whole generation of people that don't know that joke.
That hurts.
Anyway,
that joke's perfect. That's a perfect joke.
In terms of like new content, I would say that HBO Max has been the only thing that's like grabbing my attention. The Peacemaker show came out this year, just for reference.
Peacemaker is the best show of the year, probably.
I really liked that show.
Peacemaker was amazing,
and
it
yeah, and it came out like what, January? It was very early.
Yeah,
but it was so good, and that was just straight up just original HBO Max content that I wasn't ready for.
The streaming service that I have been surprised the most by, because I thought it was going to be irrelevant when they announced it, is Apple TV Plus. Ted Lasso, everybody knows it is just a genuinely phenomenal show that is just great. Is Ted Lasso?
The national treasure.
Yeah,
I would
it
say.
is. Except for it takes place in Britain, but fuck it. Gross.
He's an American.
Exactly. And Americans doing the British people good, and that's what we need to remember, folks.
Yep.
No, but Severance. Have you watched Severance?
No, I'm really curious.
I need
about
to watch
it.
it. I've heard so much about it, and it's just too much at this point.
Severance is one of my favorite seasons of TV I've ever seen.
Can you explain what Severance is?
Yes. So Severance stars Adam Scott from Parks and Rec. You also remember Adam Scott as the annoying brother from Step Brothers who sang in the car. Great character. Anyways, it stars Adam Scott, and the idea of Severance is that he works at a company where they have severed people's brains, and that when they go down the elevator to work, their mind splits, and that they are a totally new personality at work, and they don't remember their old life outside of work. And when they go home and they go up the elevator, they no longer remember what they do at the office. That they're basically splitting this person's life so they don't have to take the baggage into work and the baggage of work into the home life. And that
it makes the work-life balance literal.
Yes, exactly. And that's the idea, is that this work-life balance, and and what the show does with, like, not only this, sorry if you hear a bunch of sirens, I live near a fire station. But the idea of, like, what this does to the people and why these people are severing themselves, what the office life is like, and it just, so many sirens. God, something's happening on my end, guys.
Jake, are you okay?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They found that I had weed.
Oh no.
No, so my mom's gonna watch this and be like, don't say that on the internet. But no, so like it's all about like these two lives that this guy lives, and how they kind of not bleed through, but they start to wonder about each other on the outside or the inside, and what that does to the people around them. I don't want to say any more because I think the fact that, like, Maddie and I didn't watch a single trailer for this show and just went in blind
is how you watch it.
It's directed mostly by Ben Stiller, which is crazy surprising, but it's very good. But it's one of my favorite shows of the year. I think it's just phenomenal, and like I cannot wait for the second episode, or in the second season, excuse me. Like, it's just so good.
Is it coming out this year or is it next year?
Nah, probably next year or something.
I believe season 1 was this year. Yeah,
season 1 came out this year.
That's two shows on Apple TV Plus have just like hit it out of the park.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, and they've got
Isn't there a Tom Hanks show, or what was that one?
Oh, he had a movie.
Like,
there was a movie. That
it was a movie.
Tom Hanks has been in a couple Apple TV Plus products.
Yeah, I was like,
there's a movie called Greyhound, which is kind of a World War II naval movie.
What was the one with the robot?
Finch, I think.
Finch, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
And that was meh.
Okay.
But I think like they've put out like surprising quality of shows. However, I don't think like the content is there always. Like,
is it worth the price though? Because I mean, we're talking about these streaming services, and for me, a lot of it is bundled in my internet. So I have access to Peacock, to HBO Max, to all of these HBO Max with AT&T.
Yeah.
But all of these like services, like phone or internet, allow you to get other streaming services that I wouldn't pay for Peacock. I wouldn't pay for Paramount Plus or any of these. Like, but it just comes with my bundle, and I was just like, okay, well, I will just take advantage of it. I'll pay for Netflix though.
I wouldn't pay for Apple TV Plus. Only, but now like. Okay, so I get it through my stepmom. My stepmom's got all the streaming services basically.
Oh yeah,
so
no holds barred. We all get streaming services from somebody else in our lives.
I go in with a bunch of people.
The only one that I pay for myself is Disney Plus, and it's because they got fucking Star Wars on there, and I'll pay $3 million for Star Wars.
I got a great deal for Disney Plus.
Yeah,
it's worth it.
Yep, through your Verizon or whatever.
Yeah,
they had a good one. But I don't think Apple TV Plus is like worth it to pay every month just to have it. But like when their shows come out, I think like they put out great content. Yeah.
Does it come out weekly though?
Yes. Yeah. All their shows come out weekly. Which
I think at this point
that's normal. Even Netflix is doing that.
Netflix is the only one that does everything.
They're gonna start doing.
Amazon does it, right?
No. The Boys came out weekly.
Boys came out weekly.
The Boys, another groundbreaking TV show of this year.
The Boys is fantastic.
The Boys has scarred me mentally.
I think for shows continuing, The Boys had a great season. Stranger Things had the best season ever.
Yep.
There's a lot, but like for new shows to come out, like there's been a lot, and I think it's I think this was brought up like in our discussion, like in terms of the question is, is it good? Like in terms of all these different streaming platforms like doing their own content. And I think it's great because it was just Netflix doing it for a long time, just coming out with their own Netflix shows.
And they were putting out garbage left and right.
You would get so much. It is. It's just like so much like react to some murder or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, we need more original content.
Well,
And
let
I think
me
that's happening.
Stop you right there.
This has a good
because,
transition point.
I would like to talk about some news.
Whoa.
Whoa. So,
guys, Ted. Hold on, Ted.
Yeah.
Ted prepared for this show.
I prepare for some shows.
Okay, there you go. For some shows.
Yeah, some shows.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Good
some
legalese
shows,
there.
Yeah. If lawyers get involved, I like to do some research. What does that say
Yeah,
about me?
I prepared before in my life.
Yeah. So this news hit me in a bunch of different ways. You hear bits and pieces of it, and it's confusing. Mm-hmm. And so I came to you guys and said, "Hey, like we should just talk about this because what the heck happened?"
Yeah.
So I wrote down a little rundown. Essentially, what happened? Warner Media, which is a giant conglomerate that was the owner of HBO Max, the streaming service that we're talking about, the streaming service that was providing like new original shows that I at least really liked, and it has had a fantastic 2020 year, which I'll talk about. They merged with AT&T Discovery. AT&T Discovery being Discovery of Discovery Channel, kind of cable news, cable channel people, and AT&T, the giant cell phone company that we all like to hate.
And Discovery also has their own streaming platform. Discovery Plus or Minus.
Yep. Discovery Minus.
Multiply.
They merged, and I kind of want to talk about what happened. There was some fallout, and there's a lot of news that came out of it. Kind of want to get your guys' 2 cents in on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So just to differentiate this, Warner Media is completely separate from Warner Brothers Interactive, which makes the video games.
Yeah.
So we're not worried about video games here.
Good.
Metaverses, totally safe. Don't even worry.
Good.
I know you're all here for metaverse content.
Don't touch my metaverses.
Don't touch my metaverses.
James has been playing as that Gremlin character for weeks now. That they just
brought. God, I saw that. They added a Furby.
No, they did.
Anyway,
Ted, have you seen the movie Gremlins? Just out of curiosity.
I've watched clips, but
Ted,
I've never seen the real whole thing.
Please watch the movie Gremlins.
Is it on HBO Max?
Is it not scary?
It's not scary. Ted, I will rent you Gremlins. If you're like, hey, I can't find anything, give me $4 to rent it. I'll Venmo you $4.
I think it's on HBO Max.
Don't read anything about Gremlins. Don't try to understand what Gremlins is. Just go into it kind of blind. You'll be surprised at what this movie does.
All right, I'm in. Right. Okay. So just to set the scene, HBO Max hits May 27th of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
For those of us who don't remember, that was lockdown season.
Good times.
And at the time, they came out with a streaming service. This is HBO's official streaming service. And at the same time, they announced something which came to be known later. This was known internally as Project Popcorn, which was that all Warner Brothers movies were going to come to HBO Max.
Day and date.
Same time as the theaters. This was
amazing.
all
45 days, and then they would leave, and then they would come back.
Yep. So this was all run by the CEO of Warner Media at the time. His name was Jason Kilgar. He was the brainchild behind Project Popcorn and a lot of just general goodwill lockdown-y type moves that HBO Max did. He greenlit a lot of the shows that are coming out now.
But also this Project Popcorn thing that you're talking about also kind of screwed over a lot of movies because Warner Brothers owns a lot of the distribution rights to movies that they're not making. So, for instance, Dune, which was made purely by Legendary Entertainment, had the distribution rights through Warner Brothers, and they just basically said, we're going to distribute these movies, which we own the distribution rights, through HBO Max, rather than the theaters. And Dune was like, whoa, what the fuck? And people lost a lot of stuff. Christopher Nolan notoriously was like, I'm no longer going to work with Warner Brothers, and he pulled his movies.
And he got a sweet deal.
He did. He got great money for that. So their deal was not entirely industry friendly as we start to go away from movie theaters. Sorry, just wanted to add that.
No, that's fine because a lot of this topic will be about industry friendly. So anyway, that was all run by CEO at the time, Jason Kilgar. It was pretty obvious that it was kind of to make us feel better during lockdown. these business decisions were done because people couldn't go to movie theaters. But that's kind of where HBO Max started, and it's what kind of skyrocketed its popularity. I know that's why my household got it. I think it's why most households got it. So
and HBO Max broke a bunch of records, correct? Like when it first launched, it was like one of the highest record.
Yeah.
It did very well. Sorry.
So on April 8th of 2022, Warner Media, the giant people who own HBO Max, merged successfully with AT&T, which is also AT&T Discovery, to become, I think they're calling themselves Warner Discovery or Discovery Warner.
Something like that.
Discovery Warner, I think.
They are not very good at their own name. Basically, I don't know. They are not good at describing their own name. Basically, we now have a super group of media companies, and I have a short list. These are all the companies that are now under the same banner of AT&T Warner Discovery. Discovery Channel of cable fame. What's that?
Can I pause you really quick? I got a better name. I just thought about it.
Okay, yeah.
War Disco.
Yeah, there it is.
War Disco. That's what they should call it.
Yeah.
All right,
War Disco.
Thank you for that comment. Discovery Channel and their streaming service Discovery Plus. Warner Brothers Entertainment.
Just like that James stopped the show just to say War Disco.
Or Disco War.
Oh,
Disco
man.
War.
Flip them.
Ted, please.
All right, I'm starting over. Discovery Channel, Discovery Plus, Warner Brothers Entertainment. That's all of it. Movies, shows, anything that Warner Brothers makes. Looney Tunes. CNN. DC.
CNN
Comics.
also has their own streaming service. No longer.
Not anymore.
It did. Yep. Before the merger.
HBO and HBO Max. They're technically two different things.
Yep.
HGTV, Food Network, TLC, TNT, TBS, True TV, Travel Channel. I'm just naming cable stations at this point. Motor Trend, Animal Planet, New Line Cinema, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, Turner Classic Movies, and this is quoting the actual AT&T website, and more. So they don't even know what they own at this point.
It's just a lot.
Yeah, they just bought it all.
Yeah, so a giant conglomerate of cable-ish properties that we have come to know and love in this new era of streaming. New CEO happens with a merger. His name is David Zaslav. Big minor background on him. He's a big cable media guy. Okay. David Zaslav. He's one of the top Fortune 500 media people, media CEO millionaires. He was originally responsible for bringing NBC to cable with CNBC, MSNBC, and I think NBC Sports. And then he spent 15 years at Discovery Channel, making it the Discovery Channel.
Okay.
Everything that you know about Discovery Channel, all the fishing shows and stuff like that, that's him. Anyway, he takes over. He's one of the first people to publicly state that we should be looking at companies based on their IPs or their content, as opposed to any other metric. Like the IPs that they own are the reason we should look at to acquire companies. And he's been one of the first people kind of buying companies for their IP. This is what this guy's known for.
And it's worth noting they own fucking DC Comics. Like they own a massive brand in Warner Brothers. So.
Yeah. This is a company that owns companies that own brands that own brands.
Yeah.
It's big. So anyway, David Zaslav has been known publicly basically to say that he thought Project Popcorn was a bad idea. He really did not like that. He did not think it was very industry friendly, that they kind of screwed over a lot of the people making the movies that they distributed. And so now he is the CEO of this brand new company, and they put out a public statement in April, basically stating that they are going to change their company direction. They're going to change the ship to a quote-unquote cost-cutting methodology, and that they are looking to divulge almost $3 billion of debt.
Makes sense. I mean, to be fair, like Warner Brothers, HBO Max, like they just did stupid moves. Like they gave Zack Snyder like $100 million to finish his fucking version of the Justice League. Like they just they were really reactionary to what people were asking rather than like.
At least it was good, but
it was all right.
It was better than the original.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's easy.
So basically, this new company forms. It's got $3 billion in debt. This new CEO's his mission is to reduce that debt. They're looking to cut costs as a company policy.
Yeah.
So what happened? Why did this happen? Well, to start, I'll kind of run down what happened. We can kind of react to it. The streaming service CNN Plus was shut down 1 week after it launched. It lasted 1 week. And for those of you who don't remember, Stanley Tucci Searching for Italy, which is a 10 out of 10 show. My favorite show.
That's one of the best shows.
It got moved to HBO Max. So if you saw it on HBO Max, it's because CNN Plus.
It was. Ted wants you to know it was a CNN Plus original.
I want you to know,
Stanley
Tucci. Okay, so then next thing they did, they halted production of I believe it's up to 9 TV shows in Western Europe. So these are foreign TV shows for foreign audiences. They're not in English. There's like 2 Dutch shows, like a German show, a Netherlands show. These are not really stuff that we know about, but they cut it. Mid-production,
axed.
Done. You are done. Season's canceled. Don't expect another one. Over. Done. One of the shows was called The Beforeigners, which is a great name.
That's a good name, actually. It's a really good
name. Next thing they did is they basically made a public statement that they are no longer paying any attention to children's programming of any kind.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Well,
so, and
this
they
makes
canceled,
sense, though, yeah.
Yeah, they canceled 3 TV shows. The reason I'm bringing this up is because even though one of them was live action, 2 of them are animated, some of them were already done, filmed, edited, ready to launch, canceled them. Don't air it, don't show it, we're done. And then they made a public statement basically saying that, Discover Warner is no longer interested in children's programming.
I think they'll probably sell it off to another company. Like, I feel like that's something that you could just easily.
Well,
we got the show already ready.
You say that,
Who
but
wants to buy it?
Does that mean? Are you suggesting they sell off Looney Tunes?
That's
well,
all,
if
folks.
they made a Looney Tunes, I feel like that's just on them if they just cancel the Looney Tunes.
Well,
that would sell well with adults.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
It's all that racism. Anyway, so yeah, they say that they were no longer interested in live action family programming. The next thing they did is they canceled multiple shows from TNT and TBS's 2022 fall lineup. Similar reaction. They canceled shows that were already filmed, already edited, ready to go. They were lined up. If anyone remembers Nasim Pedrad from SNL, they canceled her show and told her they could not air it the day it was to come out. So it was done. It was done. It was ready to go on the airways, and they said, nope, turn it off. So they're hitting close to home if you're producing a show or a movie under this company. The big news, the ones that you probably heard, they canceled 2 HBO original movies, HBO Max.
I think
original
one of them
movies.
is huge news. That's
Scoob 2, whatever, and Batgirl.
And Batgirl.
The big news with Batgirl is that Batgirl was already filmed and edited.
It was they were showing it to test audiences.
Yeah, and I read a thing where test audiences, the movie that test audiences see doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the end product. No. But it was filmed, it was edited. They had a movie that they were ready to show people. Canceled. Done. And I'll explain why later. But that was kind of the big news that really hit a lot of my sources.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's worth noting that this was the DCEU universe is all fucked up and everything. But Michael Keaton as Batman was in Batgirl. J.K. Simmons as Jim Gordon was in Batgirl.
Right.
This had a lot of heavy power in it to star power. It had Brendan Fraser, who's apparently going to win an Oscar now for this movie, The Whale. He was the bad guy in it. This had some names behind it and everything, and it just unceremoniously was shot in the face.
Canceled.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And this was all pretty instantaneous. And then the other news. Well, the other news, the final bit that I think is the most damning, but we'll talk about it, is that HBO Original Content. This was stuff made for HBO Max. Sorry, HBO Max Original Content. Was quietly pulled from the platform, never to be seen again.
What were these shows? Do you have that?
So it's difficult because they never actually announced it. Yeah. So I kind of did some research. I watched a lot of videos. The top ones that I could find were Seth Rogen's American Pickle.
A fucking terrible movie. Thank God it's gone.
It was not good, but it's gone. If
that
you wanted to watch it,
deserved to be burned.
If you wanted to watch it, you can't. Something called Tom and Jerry Shorts, which apparently featured a lot of cameo appearances of some kind.
There might be licensing things. That's interesting.
Yeah. A reality show called Craftopia, which is only on here because that was one of the debuting HBO Max. They were advertising come and watch HBO.
Okay.
There were 2 Anne Hathaway movies, The Witches, and if you remember that movie, Locked Down.
Yeah, that was apparently really bad.
Yeah, so both of those just
Okay.
disappeared, as well as some other another movie called Super Intelligence, which was more of a younger audience themed movie, and then a whole bunch of HBO original content, kind of from 2014 to 2018. You know, HBO makes shows that
Yeah.
have a first season, they don't get redone. A lot of those disappeared.
Hmm.
And the big thing with that is like, you can't watch those anymore. They're gone.
Yeah.
It's it.
They're just done.
Why did this happen? In brief, the short answer is that when 2 companies merge, they're allowed to do something called purchase accounting, which basically says that they can claim the troubled assets from both companies before. They can claim those as losses on their taxes.
Yep.
So a lot of people speculate that all of this is happening basically so that they can say all of these movies, shows, properties, medias, whatever you want to call it, were bad.
Yeah.
And instead of showing them, we're just going to write them all of their costs off as losses on their taxes. The flip side to that, if they write it on their taxes as a loss like this, they can never publicly show it. They can never come out and say, we brought you Batgirl. That cannot happen. Legally speaking, you are not allowed to show this to public audiences.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the big bummer.
But how can they quantify their losses, Ted?
I don't fucking know.
It's got to be through production budgets of every movie or every show that has a budget.
You know, with movies, it's like you can't just be like, hey, we had a budget of like 100 million, and we know we're gonna make 300 million, so we just lost 300 million.
I'm sure they could probably do something like that.
I would
How
bet that's what the lawyers are arguing, exactly.
Jesus Christ.
But basically, publicly speaking, this new company, Warner Discovery, has stated that they're looking to do more theatrical releases, theatrical releases, and that they are looking to downgrade streaming services. That was just kind of a very broad general statement. A lot of people have interpreted that different ways.
One thing to note for Ted and for James and I, Peacemaker Season 2 has not been canceled. Peacemaker Season 2 is good, and James Gunn is also working on another project with DC. No, Peacemaker did very well for them.
Yeah, and James Gunn is a treasure, and you just always pay whatever James Gunn makes. Because you know he can make movies, and now you know he can make shows. Holy shit.
Yeah. That's the spirit.
So,
the last little point I'll make is that there were a lot of rumors that because they talked about downgrading streaming, that HBO Max and Discovery Plus might be getting canceled, or one of them might be getting canceled. They might be merging into like a super.
I imagine that.
That's kind of the current rumor. How we know that a lot of the key leadership people at HBO Max have had their contracts renewed, so a streaming service is definitely staying. We don't know what it is. Their CEO stated loosely that they were planning on adding potentially a third streaming service, which has people wondering, cancel CNN Plus. A lot of people think it's going to be a sports-related streaming service. I think it's going to be a Food Network streaming service, but
that makes more sense.
Food Network one would do really good.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
You call it Cookin' Plus.
Yeah. So they are still going to be doing streaming, although they don't want to prioritize streaming. And the final thing is that we've noticed, at least since they've done this, but before they say any other big moves about streaming, a lot of their properties have left HBO Max to go to Discovery and vice versa. So there are 2 different streaming services that you pay separately for, owned by the same company, and the shows that they own flip-flop between the 2.
Are they just not going to merge?
We don't know. Apparently a lot of this tax stuff is done quarterly, so a lot of people are saying that this is not over. We might see more cuts, more cancellations as a new quarter moves forward. We just don't know.
Just from talking about another platform merger that happened this year, which is Funimation, which does anime, and Crunchyroll, which is probably one of the biggest anime streaming services. Crunchyroll bought Funimation. Crunchyroll's owned by Sony. No, Funimation's owned by Sony. Right.
No.
I think it's Crunchyroll. Anyways, they merged, but the way they did it is Funimation's streaming site just went away, and they just moved everything over to the Crunchyroll site.
Yeah.
And what I thought I heard was that HBO Max, they're moving everything to Discovery. Is that not what's happening?
No, that is not. There's no official word on who is going where and what. The most prevalent rumor that I heard is that they would be combining the two services into some kind of epic service and then charging kind of a double rate for them. That's total conjecture. We have no idea if that's actually going to happen.
Crunchyroll is owned by Sony. You were right, James.
Okay, yeah. I was like, that makes sense to me in my head, like that they.
So I take it to your guys' thoughts. How do you feel about a giant corporation suddenly having a change of heart and just completely changing the game on so many different shows and platforms?
Yeah. James?
They probably, I mean, just think about it. Like if they're trying to cover debt, and they just can't. How do you compete with something like Amazon, who's doing billions on Lord of the Rings, and Netflix, who of course is pouring so much money in all these little junk shows that keep coming out? But, like, how do you compete? And of course, you could merge and just get one section of your area, which I think they're targeting a good area. But Ted, all the shows and stuff you mentioned, I'm not really like, oh no, we lost that. I feel like it's more like maybe they just say, hey, let's just cut down and let's focus on our core shows. That's what I think is happening.
This conversation has a lot of different like angles to it to discuss like what the big angle for streaming services in general are, when are they going to replace just going to the theater outright? Because that is going to happen. Like within our lifetime,
not according to Warner Discovery.
Right. I mean, and you know what? And Top Gun Maverick fucking proved us wrong, man. Like Top Gun Maverick is one of the highest grossing movies of all time. Came out this year. Everybody
men are still going to the bars with mustaches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the fucking Rooster, he left his imprint on a lot of us, you know.
Oh yeah.
Hangman, I still think about him sexually often. He's a good looking dude. Thank you, Ted. But no, I think like that thing for Warner Brothers, it's a very big movie production company. Not one of the biggest anymore, but like to them being like really adamant about theaters shows you kind of where that mentality is. However, the minute these companies realize that they get to control the distribution and the viewing, and like Disney realized that, and then everyone got mad at them. And like charging $30 for a new movie on a streaming platform that you would go spend $30 to see once is not a bad deal. But it is a bad deal when you think about every other movie's on there for free.
Yeah.
And that's going to switch in 10, 15 years. And we're all going to be doing that, guys. And so like Warner Brothers, to kind of go back on it, it's a temporary Band-Aid as they figure out how to get you to pay them directly without going to a theater.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on like their angle. But they also don't want just HBO Max movies like Batgirl. I think Batgirl, they looked at it and was like, why are we not making something with this brand in the theaters?
Yep.
And apparently,
I think that was I 100% agree. That was they were like, why is this not going straight to theaters?
And apparently Batgirl, from the rumors that have circulated, it looked like a Disney Channel original movie. Like that's how people compared it to like a cheaply made Netflix movie kind of thing. Like it was not a quality product. I don't know that for certain. I've never seen it, but like, you know, that was what people reported it as. So I'm curious with this company, but more in general, like at what point do streaming services just take over everything?
Yeah.
And which ones burn out and which ones stay?
Right.
I think it's surprising.
And for me, the two I guess I have a few takeaways. The first one is like kind of like the multiple streaming services and the multiple properties owned by this giant corporation. Like to me, it's like either make it a giant Warner Discovery streaming service, like do that and do it now. Because for me, I could absolutely see a world in which they're like, we have 3 different streaming services, but we'll sell you a bundle for the price of 2 instead.
That's what Disney Plus does.
Yeah.
You can get Hulu, ESPN Plus, and Disney Plus for like a deal.
And that mentality just it has a lot of like cable vibes to it of like, okay, is this what we're doing? We're parsing everything out and then we're going to bundle it together.
Well, yeah. I mean, Ted, what was the main thing about streaming services, the main appeal? There are no commercials. Guess what every streaming service will have next year? Commercials, unless you pay for the better version to not have commercials.
Right.
Like we're already at that point where like, well, TV is commercials are just now in our streaming services.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just cyclical almost in that sense of like,
right. It's like this is the new cable.
This is the new cable. You know, like all my parents, I've convinced all of them to cut the cable cord. Like none of them have cable anymore. They just have streaming services and YouTube TV.
Well, so that's the one holdout, and this is kind of a sidebar to my original point, but sports is kind of the one thing that still requires cable, from what I understand. Like, it's not easy to watch sports without cable.
Legally, it's not easy to watch sports legally without cable.
Legally,
there is a lot of easy ways to watch sports without.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Oh yeah, James and I got some good sites for you if you need to watch some NFL games, guys. But you're seeing streaming services start to. Thursday Night Football is on Amazon.
Is on Amazon. Yep.
Sunday Night Baseball is on Apple TV Plus, or Friday Night Baseball. Like streaming services are trying to get into those markets. They're almost monopolized by the networks.
Right.
So that is, I think, once those die out, those contracts, it's all going to Amazon and Apple,
or they just open contracted.
Right. Yeah. And my other big issue going forward is just I feel very discomforted by the idea that shows, maybe they didn't do well, maybe they were bad, maybe there's licensing issues, but like the idea that original content can disappear from streaming services does hit me all the wrong way. American Pickle was not a very good movie, but that was also not a movie you could buy on DVD.
No.
That was an HBO original property, and that is now gone forever.
Are you buying it on DVD though, Ted?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. If I can buy this thing on DVD, I'm buying it for Ted. I'm going on Amazon right now.
But no, it's kind of the same. We'll relate it back to video games, where video games are now a service; they're not a product.
Yeah.
You can buy a disc for a video game, put it in your Xbox 360, and have it go. This game's no longer up and running.
Now, sorry, just to cut you off, Ted. This is interesting. You can actually rent American Pickle on Amazon for $4.
Oh, really?
And you can buy it on DVD, but not Blu-ray, just DVD.
So, just
you're getting that out of some guy's trunk.
Just cut you up, Ted. One thing that Amazon does have over any of the other streaming services is the ability to rent and buy stuff it doesn't really actually have on their service.
Yeah, Apple TV, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
And I think YouTube as well, but
YouTube.
But still, that's a big advantage for a lot of streaming services,
right? Totally.
To be able to do that.
Yeah, and but just this idea that like a giant company makes a course correction, and then that trickles down to my niche little TV show that I remember from 2015 just vanishing.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet. It's kind of like crying wolf in a sense, but like
it will happen.
But it could happen, and that just to me is like this kind of discomforting thing that we're in now, where like TV is becoming a service too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
With games, I think is interesting too. Like the licenses for games can just almost disappear, and like there hasn't been a major game yet that we've owned on like your Xbox, your PlayStation that is just like gone. But like servers are being shut down for certain games, right? Like if you were like, say you were the one guy that loved fucking Anthem, right? Like that was your jam. Like you can't play Anthem anymore. Like Anthem is just like gone. So like that is kind of interesting that like streaming services are almost going down that same route of like the license is just gone and you're just kind of stuck. Sucks. You know, like
that was the Babylon's Fall just recently. They shut down everything.
Yeah.
So it's like great, you spent all that money on that game, and it's
that game came out this year.
Yeah.
That's fucking gnarly.
Yeah, they delisted everything.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So that is kind of concerning.
Dead on arrival.
Ew.
Some would say that Babylon fell. You know what I'm saying?
Oh dear. Oh dear.
But
oh jeez.
But yeah, that is what happened. That is the full discourse of this Warner Discovery merger. We'll see what happens with HBO Max and Discovery Plus. Will they merge? Will one of them die? Will there be a third one?
And another
Would
thing,
you buy Food Network Plus? Because I might.
Cooking Plus.
Yeah.
Cooking Plus.
The thing that I think is kind of interesting when this relates to the games world is that video games aren't announced until there's like a product to show, where movies and shows are announced. Well, you know what I'm saying. But movies are announced when they are just like a concept. Like we're making a Batgirl movie. Like we were hired some guy to write a script. Like we don't know if it's going to be good, but like but like you'll never hear about a game. So like with Xbox acquiring Activision and Blizzard, there are probably, once that deal goes through and everything, hundreds of games that we have never heard of that are in the pipeline that were being worked on by some studio, by 3 guys at this team, that will just be unceremoniously like killed off. Where with a studio like Warner Brothers and Discovery, we know everything that they're starting to work on. Like in Hollywood, you don't work on something really in secret. It's becoming a little more like that now with like Marvel and stuff, with close-knit stuff. But like, you announce what you're working on. Where gaming studios, you don't. And so, like, this is happening all the time at game studios. We just don't hear about it.
Right.
So I think that's something to kind of consider, too. It's such a different angle with movies and these conglomerates where I'm sure,
Yeah, and I wonder if we've seen the worst of it. Like, I mentioned a couple of cancellations. I mostly mentioned them because, like, they were, from what I understand, finished products.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, and then they were just, like, cut.
Like,
and,
Back was coming out, like, 3 months before it was canceled. Like, it was very soon. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that is the end of it, but we don't know. Like, Peacemaker Season 2 might just get canceled on its air date. Like that could happen. We don't know why, we don't know how, but, like, that's
James
not off the table.
James gonna like it.
I know him.
He'll post it on a torrent site for us all.
Yeah.
That's what they did with Deadpool, and they got that thing made.
Yeah.
They leaked that footage. I love peace. I'd kill every man, woman, and child to get it. What a great line. What a great line.
All right, so just closing remarks.
Yeah.
Just ending it off with this kind of weird state of TV streaming services. If you could only pick one to take with you on an airplane, if you could only have one streaming service, do you know which one you would pick?
Yep.
One.
I think so.
Yeah.
One.
James, you go first.
Netflix.
Oh, why Netflix?
Hold on. Time out. Why are you defending Netflix?
Because Netflix has so much on there.
Netflix
Even
deserves to be defended.
Name a second show on Netflix that you would watch.
I'd watch The Witcher, and then I'd watch The Witcher animated series.
But you also got Squid Game. You've got Seinfeld is on Netflix. You've got Better Call Saul,
you got the new
Breaking Bad.
Cyberpunk show that's apparently very good.
Arcane.
I gotta watch the new Dota.
It's like, I'm not going to be burned again, so I won't watch it.
I gotta watch Better Call Saul.
I'm watching it right now. Great show.
Okay, yeah.
There's just way more stuff like in variety.
Better Call Saul is an AMC Plus show,
but it's all on Netflix,
it's
motherfucker.
It's all on Netflix.
Netflix has got it all, in terms of the variety. My second one would probably Amazon Prime, because Prime Video's got
you can only pick one.
I know, but if I had to, Prime Video, because they have everything.
You can only pick one though.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna be like just Disney Plus.
Man.
Or
no, I respect
Paramount.
I respect your.
James just named the two that we're gonna name. James like, I wouldn't be you fucking losers.
I don't know.
I wouldn't be.
He changed my. He convinced me.
I wouldn't be limited by you.
I would probably at this point, what James just said, I'd probably pick Netflix to be honest. But Netflix, I think, is like, for me, it's like that's having like cable. Like, you just got to have Netflix.
Yeah,
like, everybody's got
cable.
Netflix.
And I do respect Netflix
and respect
for that.
Your elders.
Yeah.
Like, I have flip-flopped over the past year and a half on, like, is Netflix really worth it as your essential
your blockbuster killer
streaming service? And I mean, the answer is kind of yes.
Yeah.
You need Netflix for when something is on Netflix, and like when someone tells you about a show, it's probably going to be on Netflix.
It's on Netflix,
yeah. Like, they still have that, like, they're still in our hearts.
Yeah, they are.
Not in our wallets.
Jake, how are you going to watch Cobra Kai?
Fuck, dude. That's a great show of all time. Ted, let me read you a line of dialogue I texted James the other day. Everyone, we keep talking. Ted, what was the streaming service you'd pick? And then I'm going to go back to Cobra Kai.
Well, I think we should sit here in silence while you look it up.
Right. So this is a line from the latest episode of Cobra Kai I just watched. The fate of this dojo rests in your fists. How is this not the greatest show of all time?
How is that not tattooed across your chest?
Fuck. I mean, shit, I'm wearing my Eagle Fang.
Actually, like, shirt. Oh my god.
Eagle Fag.
Was that on purpose?
But like an eagle, baby. Kind of. I just needed a shirt that wasn't black, because then I like blend into my chair. Like you schmucks.
All right, Jake, what would be your one streaming service? One.
It's probably for me Disney Plus, mainly because Star Wars and Marvel are just like my go-to comfort watchings. So like if I'm watching stuff, like usually it's them. But Maddie and I love Hulu. There is every
Hulu's
great
good.
sitcom is on Hulu. I mean, Always Sunny is on Hulu. Scrubs is one of my favorite shows, which is on Hulu. I mean, there's just any kind of sitcom you'd want to watch is usually there. How I Met Your Mother kind of stuff. So they've got good stuff, but their original content usually doesn't do it for me, to be honest.
No, I don't think I've watched any Hulu original content. I would say Hulu definitely is like, if you want background TV, if you want folding clothes background TV,
it's Hulu.
Get Hulu.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I actually was going to say Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because Disney Plus for me has, well, I guess 100% of content, but it has the most amount of content that's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I know I know what's on Disney Plus, and I know that it's not going to change.
They are not taking Empire Strikes Back off Disney Plus.
Right.
We're good, guys.
So that's kind of why I don't say Netflix is because Seinfeld's gonna go away.
No, they own the rights to Netflix.
Okay, that was a bad example.
They bought it
But
from-
what he said.
They bought it for $1
Community-
billion.
Seinfeld will not go away, Ted.
Community won't go away, or will go away. Fuck.
Community's on everything too. Have you noticed this? Community's on Hulu. It's on like
Ted,
three
Ted, you know what?
Nobody cares anymore. But you get my point. Like
Yeah.
stuff comes and goes
Yeah.
from Netflix.
If you're a rewatcher, Netflix is not your show. But if you want to just see something like and you've never seen it, just experience it, and you're never gonna watch it again, that's Netflix.
Sure.
So
It's like, yeah, I saw this series.
definitely,
It has 10 episodes. Great. Good.
you know, I go to Netflix for something new.
Yeah.
That's a great way to describe it. Yeah, but
It's your
I
Game
picked
Pass.
Disney Plus just because it's kind of my mac and cheese, my comfort
That's
food.
how I am.
Like,
It's my comfort food.
like if I will always go back to Disney Plus just because I know what's there and I know
Yeah.
more or less I'm going to like it. This isn't because they're coming out with the hottest new stuff, although
I mean,
Sorry.
they kind of are. Like they have a lot of good stuff that's coming out
you
on a
seen
pretty
that new
regular basis.
Pinocchio?
No one has.
No. I will watch it because I like Pinocchio, but I don't think it's going to be very
Uh-huh.
good.
No.
You a Pinocchio guy, Ted?
But you know, there's a good Pinocchio coming out to Netflix.
Guillermo del Toro's.
Yeah.
That looks scary. I do like Pinocchio. I like Pinocchio a lot.
You can play Life of P or whatever. Lies of P, whatever it's called.
Lies
the,
of P?
The,
Is that
the
a Pinocchio game?
Souls-like Pinocchio game.
Hell yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah.
It's fucking great looking. It looks
Do I get
awesome.
turned into a donkey?
Jiminy Cricket is like on your belt the whole time talking to you. It looks fucking dope.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Do you get sold off to the salt mines?
I'm
Just-
sure you do.
that's where you start. You start in the
Oh,
salt mines.
you
You're going
bet.
in that whale, Ted. You know it.
Yeah.
You know
Yep.
it.
Pinocchio's fucking whack. Anyway, that's a whole other episode.
Thank you so much for watching the 108th episode of the Sidescape Gaming Podcast. My name is Jake. That's Ted. That's James. And we will see you next week.